Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Wednesday, October 22nd. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Penn State game in 10 days, the game against Michigan in 38 days. If you're planning your next event, make it unforgettable with Grateful Griddle, with Columbus's favorite food truck, serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. Book your catering today at GratefulGriddleOH.com. All right, you ready for the plot twist of the century? Here you go. We're talking basketball today. Yes, I know, the Penn State game's in 10 days. The game against Michigan is in 38 days. Believe me, no one is more aware of that than me. However, Ohio State just landed one of its top prospects of the entire century in recruiting, Anthony Thompson, the number 8 overall player in the class of 2026. This is maybe one of the bigger wins for Ohio State basketball in quite a while. I'm joined by Tony Gerdeman of BuckeyeHuddle.com. Tony, this feels like, I'm not saying like clear the space for the national championship banner, but this feels like a potential turning point to a certain degree in the Jake Diebler era at Ohio State.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't hurt. Now, I mean, he is from Ohio, but I'm the first person to say that in-state recruiting in basketball has not existed over the last since the last 10 or 15 years since AAU took over. So I can't poo-poo getting an in-state guy and also say like there's no such thing. So yeah, very good job, because not only is, he's 5-star, but you're battling Kentucky, Indiana, Texas, Michigan, North Carolina. These are all visits that he took and possibilities. So when you're beating not only major names like that, but also in interconference conference foes, that's huge as well. So very good get for Jake Diebler in year 2 of we'll see what that becomes, but yeah, a good and not the first good player in this class either that Ohio State has landed.
No, definitely not. However, if you look at the historical context, like I said, 4th highest rated prospect they've landed since 2000. The only guys rated higher than him in the 247 rankings: Greg Oden, you may remember him, BJ Mullins, and Jared Sullinger. That's it. That's the list. So now he is not, unlike a couple of those guys, or really all 3 of those guys, he is not a center. So let people know what he is.
Yeah, he's listed 6'8", 205. He's like he's left-handed. He can definitely shoot. He can catch and shoot. He can put it on the court and shoot a bit as well. He can score from the post because he has range and touch, so you can get him down there and he's able to score there as well. He's not the most explosive athlete that you're ever going to see, but he's good around the basket. And like I said, he can bring the ball up, he can rebound it, he can catch it. And there's a reason for the 5-star ranking, but also like he's an advanced perimeter shooter and can be an outlet. He can be the stretch 4 that Ohio State loves and can do more than that, but a really, really good shooter that will allow them to continue to stretch the floor with their guards and the growing positionlessness of college basketball.
Well, you said he is not the most explosive athlete, so I'm going to take Sam Thompson off the table for you when I ask you to give me a comp of a former Ohio State basketball player who his game maybe reminds you of. If and if you have 2, that's okay as well.
Well, being left-handed, the first 2 that came to mind were former McDonald's All-Americans in Deshaun Thomas and Ivan Harris. And both of those guys were known for their 3-point shooting. Deshaun Thomas eventually became a scoring machine in his final year with Ohio State, but was a reliable scorer for a few years. Ivan Harris, it took a while for him to develop into a reliable shooter. But, both 6'7", 6'8", and that's what Anthony Thompson is listed at right now. So a guy that, again, can stand out on the baseline waiting for the ball if need be, or can go ahead and score from the paint and be a guy that you throw the ball down to and he can fade away and use his size down there and use his touch to become a talented scorer all over the floor. So yeah, I'd say, and not just because those 2 guys are left-handed, but because both of those guys were also, I don't want to say limited athletically, but they weren't Sam Thompson. And that's very few are, but he's certainly good enough.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So that now a little perspective here. He is not part of this year's team. This is a 2026 recruit. So we'll see him next year. This season, the Buckeyes tip off Sunday against the Ohio Bobcats at the Shot for an exhibition game. So I want to give just a very brief preview of this year's team. We'll probably do a more involved show at some point, but just for people who are maybe kind of dipped out on Ohio State basketball and are just kind of, awaking from their long summer slumber to, oh yeah, they're playing basketball again soon. A couple familiar names, really a core of 3 returnees on this year's team. Bruce Thornton back, Devin Royal back, John Mobley back. That feels like that's probably going to be the core of this team, at least to start the year. And also, they're also getting Tayson Chapman back. He missed all of last season with an injury. Every year college basketball is you kind of have to buy a program on the way into the first game because at least half the team has turned over. But that's at least a pretty good core in terms of returning players this year.
Yeah, you throw in Gabe Cupps as well as the backup point guard in there. And Tayson Chapman can play both spots. But those first 3 you mentioned, any one of those guys can go for 20 on any given night. And they're one of the better trios nationally in terms of scoring and just reliability. And I think Devin Royal is only going to continue to get better. John Mobley, as there are more options for the Buckeyes offensively on the court, he won't have to force as many shots. Started out really, really strongly last year, and then he hit that proverbial freshman wall when he was maybe trying to do too much. And so this year won't have to do that with those 3 guys together. And then transfers Brandon Knoll probably at the 4, Christoph Tilley at the 5. Both of those guys can give you scoring from different areas. So we'll see how much defense this team can play, but I think scoring-wise, they're going to be okay, and they've got some good size. They've got the ability to shoot from the perimeter from all over the place, and maybe more depth than they've had. We'll see how much they can get out of backup center Ivan Yugovin. He's played a little bit here and there, and he's getting older and better. And what kind of stretching they can do in terms of, sometimes you're 3, sometimes you're 4. Right now, we need you to be a 5 defensively. And then there continues to be really good buzz about freshman Amari Bynum, 6'8", 240, can play on the inside, can play on the outside, really, really athletic. One of those guys that might shoot up the boards here as we get to see him play more and more, or at all, frankly, since we haven't yet done that. But I think there's reason for positivity with the Buckeyes. It's just a matter of those top 3 guys that you mentioned, 2 of them standing out every night, and they should do pretty well. And then if you get help from Brandon Knoll and Christoph Tilley and those guys, if there's a 17-point night from one of those guys, then that's going to help greatly as well. And there's depth there, I'll say that.
Yeah, there is depth. It feels like this is a team that narrowly missed the tournament last year. I think they were one of the first 4 out last year and missed it in a frustrating way where they lost a couple games right at the end of the season, where if they won any of those individual games towards the end of the year, they probably are in. This feels like, what constitutes success this year? Did they have to get, they certainly have to make the tournament, right? I mean, that feels like that's the absolute baseline. Do they have to win a game? Do you have to get to the Sweet 16? Like, what do you have to finish in the? I saw one of the national publications talking about Ohio State as maybe a low-key team that might threaten to get the double bye in the Big Ten. So, are you trying to finish in the top 3 and the 4 in the Big Ten? Like, what does success look like this year?
I'd say success, getting to the tournament is not the success that you would point to for Bruce Thornton's career. I think you judge it maybe off of that. Like, one time Bruce Thornton makes it to the tournament and doesn't win a game, so that does not sound successful to me. I think second weekend, I think, would be a success. Now, that might not be a success once we see what this team looks like, or it might be a tremendous success once we see what this team looks like. But I think the second weekend is where you would like to be. That's like the baseline, I think, moving forward. And you say that knowing that I haven't been in the tournament in a while, but just getting there anymore, I don't think is good enough, especially when you should be there. So it's got to be more than what you should, than the baseline, the bottom line, I think.
Well, the season starts on Sunday, 2:00 at the Shot. Buckeyes taking on the Ohio Bobcats. First kind of marquee game on the schedule, Sunday, November 16th, 12:30 against Notre Dame, also at the Shot. So And then it'll kind of go from there. A lot of they've got a decent non-conference schedule, but of course, a lot of them always end up on neutral sites or away from home. But should be an interesting Ohio State basketball season, and we'll get back to it at some point. But it is still football season in Columbus, Ohio, as it tends to be between roughly January and December, give or take. And we will be covering the number one team in the country as they get ready to take on Penn State next weekend. Got the weekend off this weekend, but that doesn't mean there's not still plenty of stuff going on around our Buckeyes. We'll have shows all week for you, and morning shows all weekend. Don't worry, you'll get your Buckeyes tomorrow morning fix this weekend as well. The Buckeyes are off. We are not. So that'll be all coming up. And make sure, and if you can't wait for the next show to drop, you can join us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That's where we got our whole team of insiders covering the Buckeyes, covering recruiting, covering X's and O's, all that and more, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.